What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we have our updated Power 35 rankings for Week 14 in college basketball. We have quite a few changes, quite a few new teams in the top 10, so I'm ready to get right into it. I just want to say please subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and hit that like button. Those are the two best ways to support the channel and help push this content to more college basketball fans who haven't quite found the channel yet. So help me out there if you guys don't mind, and without further ado, let's get into the Week 14 Bracketology Power 35. Bracketology Power 35 heading into Week 14. Like I said, there are quite a few changes that I kind of feel like you guys might not agree with, because I jumped some teams up quite a bit who have had some consistency over the past few weeks of conference play that I felt like deserve to be into the top 10 over some of the teams that have been in the top 10 over the past few weeks. So you guys are going to have to let me know what you guys think about this week, because I made quite a few changes that I feel like are warranted. So number one team, though, does stay the same, number one and number two, but my number one team is the Auburn Tigers. They had another good week, still undefeated in the SEC Conference, which is honestly one of the more impressive things of this season so far, because the SEC is so stacked and has so many great teams in it. It's hard to go 2-0 any week in the SEC, as we've seen for all these good teams in that league, but they have managed to be undefeated in that league, with their only loss of the season coming on the road to the Duke Blue Devils, who are our number two team, who are also undefeated in their league in ACC play. Looking really good, man. Looking really good. Dominated the rivalry game against North Carolina this week. Looked really good in that game, and also beat NC State. Cooper Flagg has been going up to another level over the past few weeks. And yeah, this Duke team does look really, really good. I think I've been sleeping on them a little bit. I think they're more of a championship contender than I may have thought. I still don't know if they have, the veteran pieces to be able to win it all, but they are going to be very, very hard to beat, as we can see. Number three, we do have the Alabama Crimson Tide, jumping up one spot this week, 2-0 on the week. Once again, Alabama does look really good. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of really good guards, and that front court duo of Grant Nelson and Cliff Amorie has been really, really fun to watch. So, yeah, Alabama here at number 3 this week after beating Georgia and Mississippi State. Not a great week for Mississippi State, as you can see. We'll get to them later. Purdue jumping up 6 spots here, all the way up to number 4 from number 10. They went 1-0, beat their rival in Indiana. Braden Smith is one of the better point guards in the country. I would say he's probably top 5 for sure. Actually, I'd say he's top 3 for sure. He might be number 1, he might be number 2, he might be number 3. That is up for debate, but he is definitely one of the best. And him and Trey Kaufman-Renn have been doing numbers. That is a hard pick and roll to stop. Trey Kaufman-Renn can get it done in the post, and Braden Smith can put the ball on the money. Pretty much any type of pass you can think of. He's putting it on the money for his guys, and they're up 6 spots. A lot of teams in the top 10 lost this week, giving opportunity for a Purdue team who went 1-0 to jump up, and they've been looking really good as of late, so they're jumping up here to number 4. Number 5, we do have the Houston Cougars staying put. They did beat West Virginia this week, and they also lost in overtime to Texas Tech at home. Now, that wasn't the best of losses, but it wasn't overtime, and that was their first loss of Big 12 play. And with pretty much every other team around them losing, I feel like I'm fine keeping Houston where they're at. They have some big games coming up. They still have to play Iowa State. They still have to play some of these other hard games. But they did beat West Virginia on the road. That is a tough thing to do. And then they lost to Texas Tech at home. So, yes, it would have been nice if they would have gotten that win. They would have been up to number 4. But losing in overtime in that one, that is their 3rd overtime loss of the season. Other ones coming to Alabama and San Diego State. I feel like we're going to keep them at 5 right now. They're still one of the best defenses in the country, one of the best teams in the country. And unless they lose again next week, they are going to stay here at number 5. Number 6, this is where a little bit of controversy might come into play, but I have Missouri jumping up 20 spots. I've been holding back on Missouri jumping up too far, but they're just undeniable at this point. I say consistency, a good win streak, especially in a tough league, is the quickest way to just skyrocket up my rankings, and Missouri has done that. 2 wins this week over both the Mississippi teams, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, looking really good, and a dominating win over Mississippi State at that. So, yeah, they're playing really well right now. They deserve to be top 10. Maybe 6 could be a little bit too high, but a lot of teams around them, like I said, just lost this week. So they jumped a lot of teams, and they're all the way up here at number 6. Is that too high? Let me know down below in the comment section. But if they lose next week, they'll drop down a little bit. So we'll adjust them for that. But right now, I feel like they deserve it. They deserve top 10 for sure. Maybe 6 is a little bit too high, but I feel like it's warranted. So they're here at number 6. Number 7, we do have the Tennessee Volunteers, 1-1 on the week. They did lose to Kentucky, but then they came back with a dominating win over Florida, holding Florida under 50 points. That is actually maybe one of the more insane things that happened this week, because Florida is a team that can put up 100. They put up 100 on Kentucky in a loss. They put up a ton of points with their guard trio, and they're a fantastic offense. So to hold them to, what was it, like 42 points to open up the day on Saturday, that was very, very impressive, and Tennessee looked really good. So I did still jumping up 2 spots, even though they did lose to Kentucky. And they did beat Florida. I think 7's a good spot for them right now. Number 8, we do have Arizona jumping up 9 spots. One of the biggest wins of the week, as they did beat Iowa State in overtime. 3/4 of a court, over half court shot, buzzer beater by Caleb Love, to force overtime against Iowa State, and then they weren't losing that game after hitting that shot. That was a crazy shot, and wow. Was able to pull that off, and then they come back later in the week and beat Arizona State, their rival. So 2-0 week there for Arizona. They've been on a big-time hot streak ever since we've entered conference play, and they're all the way up there at number 8. Big 12 is one of the best conferences in the country, probably the second best, just behind the SEC this year. And yeah, to play the way that they've been playing in league play, they definitely deserve it. They're up here at number 8. Number 9, we do have Florida. They're dropping 2 spots here this week. They did beat Georgia. That was a good win for them. But then they did get beat pretty bad, as we mentioned earlier, to Tennessee. So they're going to drop 2 spots here to number 9. Tennessee and Florida kind of swap places this week. I just kind of noticed that. Number 10, we do have Texas A&M jumping up 1 spot this week. They did have a good week of beating South Carolina and Oklahoma. 2 of the weaker teams in the SEC for sure. But to go 2-0 in that league, still impressive. You handle your business. South Carolina, I still think, hasn't gotten a league win in SEC play yet, but they've been close. Even against Auburn, they almost beat Auburn at home. So South Carolina's not even a bad team, but they're just the worst in that league. Number 11, jumping up 13 spots, another one of our bigger risers this week, because they got another signature win for Texas Tech. They beat Houston on the road in overtime. Texas Tech is a big-time sleeper, man. They're finally going to jump up a lot of people's rankings and a lot of people's seed list for March Madness, and I've been saying it for a little while, ever since about 3 weeks ago, I want to say, whenever I uploaded my March Madness Sleepers video. Texas Tech was around a 9-10 seed at that time, and I was saying, as far as Final Four sleepers, Texas Tech is up there. I think, they were in my thumbnail of that video. So I called that one right. I said in that one, I expect them to jump higher, up to maybe at least a 6 or 7 seed, if not higher. And right now, they're looking more like a 5, even a 4 seed by the end of the season if they can keep this up. So Texas Tech looking really good. They're up here to number 11. Number 12, dropping 9 spots, actually, is Iowa State. This is one of the bigger shockers of the week. Yeah, they did lose on the road to Arizona in overtime due to a buzzer beater that forced overtime, but it was the game after that on Saturday that was almost the biggest shocker. They lost at home in Ames for the first time in, 29 games, I believe they said. First time they lost 29 games in Hilton Coliseum, and it was to Kansas State. Kansas State is a team that's like around 500 on the year. They do have another good win against West Virginia, but Kansas State just not that great of a team. They have been heating up lately, but they got dominated at home by Kansas State. So Iowa State, they're going to have to get their mojo back. I believe they will. I believe they're going to be back into my top 10 next week. But for now, after that week, they had to drop out here to number 12. Number 13, we do have Michigan State. They finally take their first conference loss on the season, losing to USC. And the reason why Michigan State is dropping 7 spots because of one loss, even though they did go 1-1 on the week and they did beat Minnesota, they haven't beat the top of the Big Ten just yet. I need to see them against Purdue, especially against Illinois, against Michigan. Well, they did beat Illinois, but that was just one of them. I want to see them against some of these other top teams in the Big Ten. They did beat Illinois. I will give them credit for that. But I do feel like 13 is a fair ranking for them at this point because a lot of their wins in the Big Ten were against, Minnesota, I believe, 2 times. Some of these weaker teams in the Big Ten. So I want to see them against more of the top teams, and they'll definitely rise. If they can beat a team like Purdue, they will rise a lot because Purdue's impressed me a lot. They're all the way up at my number 4. Number 14, we do have Memphis jumping up 1 spot. Another 2-0 week. I did make the mistake last week. I thought they only went 1-0. I missed one of their games, but they did go 2-0 this week. So they're on a little bit of a win streak again. But the reason they're only jumping 1 spot is because they beat Tulane and Rice. And they weren't particularly close. The Rice game yesterday on Sunday was a little bit close, but yeah, I just feel like, those aren't the best of teams. They were supposed to win those, so they're going to jump up 1 spot here. Number 15, we do have Kentucky dropping 3 spots after losing to Arkansas. Big story in Rupp Arena as Coach John Calipari, who has not been having that great of a season as the coach of Arkansas, walks into, where he used to coach just last year and gets the job done and beats Kentucky, beats this Mark Pope-led Kentucky team. So I don't know if John Calipari just got his team super hyped up for this game. Heading into it, they want to prove a point, but they got it done. And yeah, Kentucky did beat Tennessee earlier in the week on the road. That was very impressive, but they need to beat Arkansas there at home. That was a tough one there. Shout out to John Calipari pulling off that big time upset. But Kentucky's going to fall 3 spots here at 15. Number 16, we do have St. John's jumping up 2 spots. Another 2-0 week for St. John's. Looking really good. Beat Providence and Georgetown. Those are 2, middling teams there in the Big East. And impressive wins for them to get both of them as W's. They are now my top-ranked team in the Big East Conference. Number 17, we do have the Clemson Tigers here jumping up 3 spots. They also had a good 2-0 week where they beat Virginia Tech and NC State. 2 games that they were supposed to win, and they did. And Clemson is showing some good consistency for me, which is really changing my mind about them, especially a team that made the Elite 8 last year, as far as a team that could potentially be dangerous to make the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 again. So look out for the Clemson Tigers. Number 18, we do have Marquette dropping 10 spots. Probably a little bit too much they dropped, but I feel like they should have beat UConn, especially at home. That wasn't a good loss. Marquette was favored in that game, and they should have been. They were at home. They just didn't really look that good against UConn, man, and they're going to drop 10 spots because of it. Number 19, we do have Louisville, and they are dropping 3 spots this week because they did lose to Georgia Tech this week on the road. That was not a good loss, but they did also beat Wake Forest this week, which was a good win. So those kind of counteract each other, and Louisville has been pretty hot before this Georgia Tech game, so they're only going to drop 3 spots because of it, not going to drop too far. But as long as they can bounce back next week, they're going to stay in the top 20, and they can jump back up again. Number 20, we do have St. Mary's. Big time win for them this week as they beat Gonzaga, which was absolutely huge. They were also already in huge control of the West Coast Conference, and now they are they kind of control their own destiny to once again win the West Coast Conference regular season. Randy Bennett is doing it again, and this St. Mary's team looks like a team that can finally have the team to make a run in March Madness. I hope this is the year for the Gales. I'm rooting for them. They're up here in the top 20 this week. Number 21, we do have UConn jumping up 8 spots. They have a really good week. Beat DePaul and they did beat Marquette. So really good week there for UConn. They're back in the top 25 here at number 21. Number 22, we do have the Maryland Terps, and they're jumping up 9 spots. A 1-0 week this week, beat Wisconsin, and looked really good. They're on a nice little win streak. I believe they're on like a 4-game win streak, something like that. They've looked really good the last few weeks, so they deserve this one, even though they only got 1 win. It was against a good Wisconsin team. They're jumping up 9 spots, 22. Number 23, the team they beat this week, is Wisconsin. And Wisconsin did take that loss to Maryland, but they also beat Northwestern. I didn't feel like they deserved to fall too much for that. I still think Wisconsin looked really good, this week. I didn't feel like they looked bad enough to drop past 23, so they're staying put. Number 24, we do have Kansas, and Kansas, I don't know what's going on with them. They need a stern talking to. Like, I don't know what the deal is, but they blew a huge lead to Baylor. I know it was on the road, but they were up, 19, 20 points at halftime to the Baylor Bears, and Baylor came back and won. So, just not good. Kansas was supposed to be one of the top national championship contenders this year, and they're not looking like it at all. I don't believe Kansas has any shot at winning the championship this year. Like I did, in the preseason. I thought that they were going to be one of the better teams, but a lot of that is due to their transfer additions and AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin just not really performing. Zeke Mayo is the transfer that is performing. They got Hunter Dickinson down low, who is performing, but they don't have the depth that we did think that they were going to have. KJ Adams not playing that great this year either. They're down at number 24, hanging on to the top 25, but they're still here at number 24. Number 25, we do have Michigan. Michigan had a 2-0 week, but they didn't really look that good, to be honest. They beat Penn State. Didn't look that great in that game, to be honest, and they also beat Rutgers. So, yes, that is a good week, but they're only jumping up 3 spots because, they didn't look that great. Number 26 is Creighton. They did look pretty good, though. Creighton is playing pretty great. It's a shame that they lost Pop Isaacs for the season, because if they had him, they could be very dangerous this year. Very, very dangerous. But still got Ashworth, who actually hit a game winner against Villanova, banked it in from the corner. Crazy shot. But they were able to find a way in that one. And they're up 6 spots here at 26, knocking on the door of the top 25. Number 27 staying put, we do have Illinois. And Illinois, 1-1 on the week, lost to Nebraska in overtime. That was on the road, but Nebraska, is a good team. Even though they've been losing a lot in the Big Ten, they are a good team, sneaky team in that league. And then they also beat Ohio State, which is a good win because Ohio State has been, a decently hot team the last few weeks. So Illinois staying put here at 27. Number 28 and 29, and 30. Some of our biggest fallers of the week. Mississippi State drops 14 spots after going 0-2 this week, losing to Alabama and also Missouri. And Missouri beat them bad. Alabama, they hang in there close. I wasn't going to drop them too far, but then you're at home against Missouri. I felt like that was one Mississippi State needed to win. And not only did they lose, but they lost by a lot. So they just didn't look good in that one. And against Alabama, it was crazy because Josh Hubbard dropped 37. And you guys know how much of a fan of Josh Hubbard is. How much of a fan of Josh Hubbard I am, if you guys have been watching this channel. And that was one of his best game of the season against Alabama. They were almost able to knock him off, but it was actually a blown layup by Mississippi State's big. They could have beat Bama. So I really didn't want to drop them this far, but that game against Missouri, they didn't look good at all, and that's a big reason why Missouri's jumping up so high. But yeah, Mississippi State didn't look good. I look for a big bounce back week from them this week. Chris Jans is an excellent head coach. He'll get them together. I'm excited to watch them this week. Oregon, however, Dana Altman, another good coach. Can he get his team together? Because they are cold right now. Losing to UC week and also Nebraska. Good week for Nebraska, sneakily. But yeah, Oregon just not looking that great. They're down 16 spots. Both these teams dropping out of the top 15 down to 28 and 29 this week. Number 30, Utah State. Only one loss. They did beat UNLV this week, but they did lose to New Mexico. And New Mexico's a good team, but I had to move them down a little bit, man. Out of the top 25 here at number 30, I feel like this is a good spot for them. Dropping 11 spots. And then New Mexico, who beat Utah State this week, jumping up 6 spots from the watch list up to number 31. Looking really good. Donovan Dent, one of the best guards in the country. Number 32, UCLA. UCLA had a really good week this week, going 2-0 against Oregon and against USC. Really good week there. They're jumping up 10 spots from the bottom of the watch list all the way up to number 32. And number 33, we do have Ole Miss dropping 3 spots after their loss to Missouri. They did lose to Missouri, but they also got a win this week against Texas. So that was a good win there. It was, Chris Beard going up against his former team. They were able to get that one done, but I still feel like I'm waiting for Ole Miss to have a good week. That win against Texas was their first win out of the last, I want to say 5 games or so. So Ole Miss is cold right now. They need to get it back together here. Oklahoma somehow hanging on to the Power 35. They went 1-1 this week. They took a loss to Texas A&M, but then they blew out Vanderbilt by 20. So looked really good in that win against Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt was in my number 25 team last week. So I felt like that was enough to keep Oklahoma at 34. There was nobody else on my watch list that I was like, okay, they deserve it more right now. So Oklahoma hanging on by a thread, and Vanderbilt, the team that they beat by 20, falls 10 spots from 25 to number 35 to get our final spot in the Danieology Power 35 rankings. Now as for my watch list, let me know if there's anybody who got snubbed. I know Baylor had a big win this week against Kansas, huge comeback, but they also lost to BYU in overtime this week. So 1-1 week for Baylor. They stay on the watch list. Same with West Virginia, the same league, the Big 12. 1-1 on the week. Good win against Cincinnati on the road, but lost to Houston this week as well. So they're staying put there on the watch list. SMU had a really good week. They're on the watch list. They went 2-0. Georgia staying on the watch list after going 1-1 against South Carolina and Alabama. And then you got San Diego State, who went 2-0, just not that many impressive wins. I believe they beat San Jose State and Wyoming. And then VCU, who lost. They were my number 35 team last week. They did lose to St. Louis, but then they did beat their rival in Richmond. So 1-1 week, they dropped down from number 35 to the watch list. Wake Forest on the watch list. 1-1 week, they did lose to Louisville, but then they did beat Stanford. Staying on the watch list there. Texas is on the watch list. Texas is a good team. They just play in a really tough league. If Texas was in a different league, they maybe would be able to get some better wins. But I do believe, they are a bubble team for the tournament, and they are still on the watch list right now. BYU enters the watch list this week. They've actually been playing pretty decently in Big 12 play. They're yet to play a team like Iowa State or Houston, which are the two monsters in that league right now. But, Texas Tech, Arizona, I don't know. I don't think BYU, I think, did play Texas Tech. But, yeah, BYU is on the watch list right now. And then Ohio State. I decided to throw Ohio State in the watch list. I know they lost one this week there to Illinois, but still they've been playing really good as of late, and I think that they deserve it. So they're here on the watch list. I'm at least keeping my eye out on them to possibly join the Power 35 next week. So let me know what you guys think about this list. Let me know if there's anybody else that I should have on the watch list who could potentially make the rankings next week. And yeah, guys, that is it for this one. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit that like button for me. And thank you so much for watching.